Good afternoon, audience. My name is Damjan Krnjević. I'm your moderator for today's final session, and congratulations to all of you who've decided to actually make it back into the room. Our topic this afternoon is green energy potential of the Caspian region. And I want to acknowledge the support of Colin Construction. I think they're up there. And the reason I want to do this is because it's the first year that they're a part of the Baku Energy Forum, and so it's a pleasure to welcome them into this universe. Colin has been doing business in Azerbaijan since 2006. It has implemented many renewable energy projects, including solar and hydropower plants. It owns one of the largest offshore manufacturing facilities, shipyards and all that in the region. Ports and so on, and it has a footprint in every place of the energy, in every part of the energy supply chain, in various markets, including to some extent in this one. So it's important to acknowledge the people who allow us to be here and to be present, and I'm glad to be able to do that. So thank you, Colin Construction. Now, before giving the floor to our speakers, I want to frame the topic of this panel by briefly making one point. Pretty much every country, every company, every consultancy that matters, they all now have figured out, in one way or another, at least implicitly, tacitly, that Azerbaijan is the indispensable country for the advancement of strategic energy and connectivity ambitions in the Caspian Sea Basin, and by extension, in the Black Sea Basin. And this means that virtually nothing serious can be done in this part of the world without Azerbaijan's involvement, given the new geopolitical realities and given the geopolitical consequences that are going to stay with us for quite some time. Now, as we've heard said in previous sessions, a critical part of Azerbaijan's indispensability includes its contribution to the EU's energy security and to the diversification of energy supply to a growing number of EU member states and candidate countries, including my own Serbia. And this particularly includes the supply of green energy to markets in Southeast and Central Europe in the years and decades to come. Now, all of this is a product of the deepening strategic energy partnership between the EU and Azerbaijan. And it's a strategic partnership that's going to continue to grow in both scale and scope well into the future. And so with this indispensable role in mind, we come to our first keynote speaker, Aygün Zeynalova, who's the Deputy Director of the Azerbaijani Renewable Energy Agency. So Ms. Zeynalova is going to set the scene for us this afternoon by briefing us about current projects, but also by saying something about a few projects that are being planned or that are in the pipeline in the context of the Green Energy Corridor's development. So President Aliyev said something about this yesterday, and Aygün Hanım, let's see if you can say a bit more. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Damjan. Thank you. I just would like to thank all organizers of Baku Energy Forum for such a great event. And actually, it's a huge opportunity for all of us to be here and to discuss the recent developments as well as the future plans for cooperation. Of course, in terms of the energy transition as well as the renewable energy export from Azerbaijan to the European Union. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be here, specifically representing Azerbaijan Renewable Energy Agency under the Ministry of Energy, which is actually an institution ensuring the organization and the regulation of activities in the field of renewable energy sources, as well as their efficient use in Azerbaijan. Also an institution which participates in the implementation of state policy in this specific field. So maybe you have already heard so many times, Azerbaijan 2030 National Priorities for Socioeconomic Development has been approved by a presidential decree in February 2021. And the clean environment and the country of green growth has been identified as one of the 5 national priorities for socioeconomic development of the country in the next decade. When it comes to the renewable energy potential of Azerbaijan, as you are aware, we have a huge potential, and according to preliminary analysis, the technical potential of offshore wind energy in the Azerbaijani sector of the Caspian Sea is approximately evaluated at 157 gigawatt, and this is a huge potential. When it comes to the, let's say, economically viable onshore potential, it's also about 27 gigawatt, and this is mainly contributed by wind and solar energy. And moreover, we have a huge potential in the liberated territories, and the total amount, the volume, let's say, of hydro, solar, and the power energy in the liberated territories is also approximately 10 gigawatt. And we have already started to cooperate with our partners in developing such a huge potential. Now let's move to the ongoing projects that we are collaborating with our partners. We have a strategic partner, which is Masdar, and we're very proud and happy to say that Masdar has successfully achieved the financial close during last summer. And it basically means that they have got the huge loan package from well-known IFIs such as EBRD, ADB, ADFD, and the JICA for specifically Garada solar power plant construction project. And very recently, just a couple of days ago, Mr. Minister Shahbazev attended the very first solar panel installation ceremony, and it was very big achievement for all of us. And when it comes to Aqua Power, it's also our partner, and we are successfully collaborating with them, and we are actually aiming to start already the construction phase with regard to the wind power plant construction. And one more very important investor, which is BP, and actually we're collaborating with them in the liberated territories, and this is a very specific project called Shafak in Azerbaijani, Sunrise. And there's this very specific mechanism, let's say, which is a virtual power transfer arrangement. That's a very specific commercial structure, which will allow BP to produce the solar power in the liberated territories, more specifically in the Jabrayil region, and to sell it across to the other party of the country to public or private off-takers. Moreover, we have additional projects with Masdar, Project Mega, and we have two more actually implementation agreements with Aqua that we have signed during the SGC Advisory Council meeting dated in February. So we are collaborating with Aqua as well regarding the onshore wind and offshore wind new projects. And we have one more investor, Fortescue Future Industries. It's an Australian company that we are closely working and collaborating in terms of the renewable energy projects in Azerbaijan, and more specifically related to the green hydrogen and the green ammonia production projects. So all these concluded agreements will give Azerbaijan to play a major role, not only in the region, but also to ensure the energy security in the European Union. That's why, more specifically, the planned production volume based on the already existing agreements, it's almost about 25 gigawatt. And at the first stage, the first phase, we are aiming to use up to 2 gigawatt for domestic consumption, and starting from 2028 to export Azerbaijan's green electricity as well as the green gases, hydrogen, to Turkey and to Europe. Referring just to Europe, as one of the main cooperation directions with the European Union, we have signed the agreement on the strategic partnership in the field of green energy development and the transmission between the governments of Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary in December last year. And at the first stage, we have already more or less clear picture. And we held 3 almost ministerial meetings. That this morning we had one more. So all our intention, Azerbaijan's intention, is to export at least 4 gigawatt of green electricity and the green hydrogen to Europe at the first stage. And that's why the parties need to come together and to discuss the technical, the financial issues related to the expansion of the existing infrastructure in order to make sure that the existing infrastructure will be able to have the transmission capacity of the renewable energy, the energy produced from renewable energy sources from Azerbaijan to the European Union. To sum up, Azerbaijan is very ambitious into becoming the green energy exporter to Europe. And considering that we have been holding the leading position in terms of the stability and the competitiveness for a long time period, now Azerbaijan stands out offering the opportunities to explore, and we are here for those partners who are looking for a reliable and a liable partner to successfully implement the new projects in the renewable energy sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our second keynote speaker is Afgan Isayev, who's an advisor to the president of SOCAR, and if I'm not mistaken, General Director of Southern Gas Corridor. Now, the really interesting thing here is that he's in charge of developing the concept to use existing pipelines to pump green energy, and including hydrogen. And this now is becoming the next thing that everybody's talking about. There are apparently regulatory requirements that are coming into the focus of the European Commission and so on. And so all of this is interesting and new and integral to the green energy corridor. So Afgan, please share your insights about SOCAR's green engagement and also about your partnerships with multinationals in bringing renewable energy projects to fruition, looking ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my utmost appreciation and gratitude to the organizers of this event, as well as the moderator. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful country. I love the country and the city as well. Fantastic city. Yeah. As you know, Aygün Hanım stated that we are very, very experienced, globally renowned investors entering Azerbaijan, and we're very grateful to them for considering Azerbaijan for this type of investments and projects. And of course, they need always a good, reliable local partner. And SOCAR presents itself, and together with Ministry of Energy, with Ministry of Economy, and basically other representatives of the government organizations within SOCAR's board. We're very grateful for their support, where SOCAR will be the reliable local partner. So, but to begin this wonderful, very interesting journey, SOCAR has decided, first of all, to transform itself, basically. And we started by engaging one of the prominent consultants to help us in devising SOCAR's decarbonization action plan. But for that, first, we need, of course, to measure our footprint as well. So Anton is here, Boston Consulting Group. We work together with them, although we started recently in April, but it's been quite an interesting journey. Anton he's leading a fascinating team of very good experts, and within a brief period of time, 2 months, we were able to almost complete the task. Of course, there are certain tweaks that we need to do. So our decarbonization action plan consists of 3 modules. Will you be talking about that, or should I? How would you like to proceed?
No, I will.
You will. We'll talk about different things.
Why don't you both talk about it? It seems to be a particularly important aspect.
It is, yes. So module one, it concentrates on measuring our footprint and basically coming up with the decarbonization action plan. Module two is how SOCAR can transform itself organizationally in order for us to be able to meet our targets in an efficient, basically manner. So what we did, with your help, of course, we introduced the business line. Board of Directors needs to approve it, SOCAR's, but it's called Future Energy and Decarbonization Business Line, which will concentrate on all the tasks, primarily 4 areas. Number 1 is renewable energy generation. Number 2 will be energy efficiency. Number 3 will be waste management, which is a very important topic, including the water as well. And number 4 is going to be other economically viable environmental projects such as CCUS, which we can deploy very quickly. Module number 3 will concentrate on defining SOCAR's mandate in the national green agenda. We, as one of the key industry players, we think that we can significantly contribute in the goals and targets set by Azerbaijan in reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, basically. So that when it comes to our strategy, what are we planning to do? Hopefully by the end of the summer, we will be able to announce our plan and get it approved by the board, where of course the ministries, the several ministries are represented, including the Azerbaijan Investment Holding as well. So when it comes to the projects, implementation of the projects themselves, we are not waiting until the strategies to be developed, action plans to be set, basically, and we decided to jump in on the projects. So one of the projects were mentioned by Aygün Hanım was Sunrise in liberated territories. So together with BP, the Lightsource BP is a developer of the project. We are basically 50%, we're considering of getting into 50% when it comes to the equity. So that will be very interesting, 240 megawatts of photovoltaic energy generation. And the power which will be swapped and generated there and then swapped will be used to decarbonize Sangachal terminal, our onshore to begin with as phase 1 operations, which is a significant basically contribution to the country's reduction of the GHG. Second project is with our strategic partner with Masdar. Mariam, I'm not going to talk about our project, so you know it better, so you will discuss the details. But I'm very grateful to Masdar. We work with Masdar's 3 teams, onshore team, offshore team, as well as the sustainable fuels and green hydrogen team. It's a group of very professional and experienced people. For almost several decades, Masdar has been in this business, and basically we look forward to capitalizing from their mistakes as well, capitalize on the experiences so that together they can help us to propel ourselves into the new, basically, areas. So with Masdar we signed in January the joint development agreement, which covers 4 gigawatts. So Mariam will discuss in detail all of that. With other partners like Aqua Fortescue, we signed the cooperation agreement, and we're in the process of discussing basically our projects in that regard. Very important subject that was touched by Aygün Hanım is basically take into consideration that out of 25 gigawatts, we need so much, but the rest we are planning for export. Export channels are extremely important for development of not only renewable energy generation, but for sustainable fuels as well, green hydrogen, basically green ammonia, SAFs, etc., where SOCAR is also strategically positioned together with our strategic partners to propel the development of these new industries. We have pipeline, Southern Gas Corridor, and together with Masdar, we engage the consultants, and we're looking with consultants on a possibility of utilizing our pipeline to deliver potentially green hydrogen or synthetic methane as well. Synthetic methane will be much easier to deliver. With other partners, we're looking at potential green fertilizers production. With Aqua, we are considering it. We are looking at, basically with our partners, at certain sustainable aviation fuel or any other sustainable in Turkey as well as here. So very interesting projects. But 6 months until the end of this year, we will concentrate on research and feasibility, trying to understand what we can do in an economically viable way. And starting from the next year, depending on the final investment decision, we will jump immediately into the implementation of these projects. So I'm very excited. This is going to be extremely interesting. So hopefully next year, during the same time, we will be able, all of us, announce fascinating results. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, let's see if we can make that true. See if we can all gather again, maybe even in the same unit, and talk about what really can be brought to market. That would be genuinely important, I think. Okay, various people on this stage, including our two keynote speakers, have made the point that the Caspian Sea holds the vast offshore and wind resources that need to be unlocked, and that these resources are much greater than the local demand. Right? And President Aliyev also said something about this yesterday and previous panels and all that. Said the following, that developing export routes, export channels, that as Afgan said, is key to unlocking this vast resource. So with this in mind, I'd like to turn to Chingiz Orujov, who is the Senior Renewables Business Developer for Total Energies. Now, Chingiz, the question that we've agreed that you're going to address centers on the challenges that you see in developing and exporting offshore wind energy in the Caspian region. But I'd like you also to address some of the specific issues that have been brought up by our keynote speakers as this relates to what you want to talk about. So there you go. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Shall I play slides now, or it will be late?
This is beyond my control, so somebody has to tell you that this is possible to do. Is it possible to do? Can his slides be put up? Okay.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to present Total Energy here. I'm sure most of the audience knows Total Energy for oil and gas business, but I will be pleased to share with you some of our achievements in renewable energy business as well. So basically, our renewable energy business is placed at the department or the business unit, which we call GRP, which stands for Gas, Renewables and Power. This unit looks also at the new energies. So next slide, please. So if all of us...
Chingiz, the next slide is in your hands. You see that little plastic thing to your right?
All right, okay.
So there's some button you push and it works.
Good, thank you. So we all aware that we start off the energy transition journey, and we well understand that it also offers good opportunities for us as an energy company. We see 4 key drivers for us in energy transition. First of all, it helps us to position ourselves as a multi-energy company, not just the oil and gas company. We now more inclined towards positioning as a multi-energy company, meaning we can offer to our customers not just the oil and gas products, also new energies, renewables, green hydrogen, etc. Another driver for us is to meet the challenge that is mainly driven by climate change. We understand that our energy growth, our energy production should not compromise on key values that is linked to the sustainable development of our planet. Also, we understand that this transition period will require still our traditional products like fuels, and we will continue to produce them, but meanwhile focus on also investing on new energies and renewables. And last but not least, we want to become an integrated power company, and we set the target to become one of the top 5 renewable energy producers by 2030. So, in a nutshell, our mission is built around 3 blocks of activities. First of all, as a as a world's third LNG producer, we will focus on this business and will expand this business, LNG business. And the second block is building up our electricity and renewables business. And the third one is develop biogas and hydrogen. If you look at the numbers, there's recent numbers from 2022, we can see that, as I said, we're number 3 in LNG market. We have, in terms of renewables, 17 gigawatts of renewable energy operating at the moment. And we have 4 gigawatts of also thermal power units operating in the world. So it's quite a big portfolio we're managing, and it keeps growing. I will give you more information on the next slide. We also employ, just briefly inform you, we employ about 9,000 people across the world, and we're serving 9 million customers in Europe, supplying gas and power. So if you look, how did we achieve these results? Just looking at the past 5 years, you can see from the slide, it's been quite a busy 5 years, seeing a lot of acquisitions, joint ventures, as we keep building up our renewable energy portfolio. Just to highlight a few, we completed acquisition of 50% of Clearway. It is the 5th largest renewable energy company in the United States. And we also made a joint venture with Casa dos Ventos. It's one of the top renewable energy companies in Brazil. So it all resulted, of course, in expansion of our power business. As you can see from the numbers, at the moment we operate 26. By the end of this year, we target to operate 26 gigawatt of capacity of power business. So 22 of it we expect to be from renewables, but 4 gigawatt of traditional conventional power. So as you can see, it will not grow, but by the end of this year, we expand the renewable part, but the traditional conventional power units will not exceed 4 gigawatt as it was at the beginning of this year. So eventually it will enable us to produce more electricity. As you can see, we will produce by the end of this year 40 terawatt hours of electricity. We're selling electricity in Belgium, UK, and France, of course. We're also trading with electricity across Europe. So it is, we've set very ambitious objective to have a gross capacity of 100 gigawatt by 2030. And from 17 gigawatt, which we now have, we plan to get 35 by 25, which is not far away. And you can see the breakdown of this targeted portfolio. You can see it is more solar than wind. So also we set up some target for storage. We have energy storage business unit. I will tell you a little bit more in the next slide. So by 2030, we want to add at least 6 gigawatt every year. And to do that, we want to expand beyond our traditional markets like US and Europe. We're looking for new markets. That's why we're here in Azerbaijan. We're also looking for new capacities here to add. But there's another very interesting feature of the market that we expect, as there's a trend now is building up across the Europe. It is expanding in other parts of the world. The most of the market we will be dealing with by 2030, we expect it to be deregulated market. So that's something I think energy companies should be prepared for in future. So we want to capitalize as we grow our portfolio on our experience in offshore. We have a great experience in North Sea and United States. So we want to build up on that experience and expand our offshore business to reach our target of 100 gigawatt. So as I mentioned, we have the Saft company. Maybe some of them heard of it. It's a 100-year-old French company. It's owned by Total Energy. It is producing batteries, and we already have energy storage solutions operating in France. You can see from the slides in Dunkirk and Carling. And we believe that this is something we can bring into new markets. renewable energy coupled with energy storage to manage the grid issues and intermittency issues. So just to highlight a few projects which we completed or planning to complete in past year, which are completed past year, and we're going to see some of them commissioning this year. So as I already mentioned, we had the completed acquisition of 50% of Clearway. We start up the project in Qatar, 800 megawatt, which is a very good example of multi-energy approach we've taken in countries. In Qatar, you probably know we have also gas and oil business, LNG business in Qatar. So along with this business, we're also developing in the same country renewables. So we started up 800 megawatt solar project in Qatar. So we're expecting commissioning this year the Seagreen offshore project, 1 gigawatt in North Sea, and we have been awarded the license to develop 3 gigawatt of generation in New York, also offshore wind. So as I mentioned, we also have biogas business. I wanted to really highlight this in my last slide. So we're number one in France. We have above 10% share. It's part of our strategy. We have a target set for the biogas, and by 2030, we're targeting 20 terawatt hours of per year production of biogas. It is something, the new energy we believe will be demanded by our customers. So it's something we develop through also with joint ventures. For example, with Clean Energy, we set up the joint venture in America to reach 1.3 terawatt hours of biogas or biomethane, how you will, in this market. So this is basically about it. So just in time, I think.
Thank you very much. Now, here's what I want to do next. I want to turn to two other panelists from the corporate world for some additional specific insights building on what has been said so far. And I want to do this by first turning to Mariam Al-Mazoui from Masdar, followed by Javid Alifli from ACWA Power. So let's start with Mariam.
Thank you very much.
Let me just, if you don't mind, I would
Please,
like to
go
say
ahead. Sure.
what you do in this wonderful
Sure.
country. Mariam is Director of Business Development and Investment for Masdar's Azerbaijan division. And as we've heard already, Masdar is doing a lot of things already, but has genuinely ambitious plans. And I very much hope that you'll speak about these. And the idea is to make some news. So say something that people will, at the end of this, be able to walk away and say, yes, Masdar is genuinely a strategic partner of this country when it comes to renewables and the green energy corridor. Let's see.
Thank you
The floor
very
is
much.
yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this panel alongside with friends, colleagues, partners, or stakeholders as well here in Azerbaijan. I'm really honored to participate as part of Baku Energy Week. It's as crucial topic to discuss the renewable energy potential of the Caspian region as we navigate the path towards a sustainable and renewable future. Earlier this year, we had the honor to host His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan in Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. In his opening remark, His Excellency emphasized the significant role that Azerbaijan Renewable Energy Program is playing in achieving greater energy security, driving economic diversification, and addressing the challenges of climate change. Azerbaijan is, with its natural resources and strategic geographic location, holds a huge potential for renewable energy development. The country has shown a remarkable commitment to delivering its energy mix and embracing sustainable solutions. And of course, Masdar has been proud to be part of this journey, working in close collaboration with our partners, Ministry of Energy, our partners as well, SOCAR, Azer Energy, and the other stakeholders in the country. As a global leader in renewable energy, Masdar has been at the forefront of driving a transition towards a greener and a more sustainable future. Our vision and commitment have led us to explore and invest in regions with significant renewable energy potential and the Caspian region is undoubtedly one of them. We have been a pioneer in advancing the clean energy sector since 2006, and a key player of the UAE's vision as a global leader in the sustainability and climate action. This year is a historical year for the United Arab Emirates, which is hosting COP28 in Dubai, and has declared this year to be the year of sustainability. Today, Masdar is active in more than 40 countries around the globe, with a total clean energy capacity of over 20 gigawatts. Looking towards the future, we have a very great ambitious target that has been set by our leadership. By 2030, we aim to grow our clean energy capacity to 100 gigawatts and our annual green hydrogen production capacity to 1 million tons. Our experience in Azerbaijan has been marked by a successful project and fruitful partnership. One notable example is our collaboration with the Ministry of Energy in the development of the Garadagh solar project, a 230 megawatt solar PV. The project is Azerbaijan's first foreign investment-based independent utility-scale solar project, structured as a public-private partnership. The plant is currently under construction, and we're targeting completion by end of this year. When completed, this project will power more than 110,000 homes. It would reduce carbon dioxide emission by 200,000 metric tons a year, and it would create many jobs for the local communities. We're also working together in parallel with the Ministry of Energy and with our partner SOCAR to further advance our footprint in Azerbaijan. Last year, exactly during the same time, we've signed 2 implementation agreements with the Ministry of Energy. It covers 4 gigawatts as a first phase, with an additional 6 gigawatts as a second phase. It covers as well all the technologies, solar PV, onshore wind, offshore wind, and green hydrogen production. These projects and agreement emphasize Masdar's commitment to Azerbaijan market. Furthermore, the Caspian region as a whole offers a promising renewable energy landscape. We recognize this potential, and we are also committed to further exploring and investing in renewable energy projects across the region. However, we also acknowledge that the journey towards a greener future is not without its challenges. The transition to renewable energy requires a comprehensive approach that compromises policy framework, regulatory support, investment incentives, and technological innovation. It required a close collaboration between government, businesses, and communities to ensure a smooth and successful transition. We believe in the power of collaboration and acknowledge exchange to accelerate the adoption of the sustainable energy solutions. In conclusion, the Caspian region holds significant green energy potential, and Azerbaijan has demonstrated its commitment to embracing sustainable solutions. Masdar is proud to have played a part of this journey, and we remain dedicated and committed to further collaboration. Thank you very much.
No, I want to say one thing about Masdar because it's important. People forget this. The founding chairman or CEO or whatever his title was Sultan Al Jaber, whom I knew from that period and since then for various reasons. And I remember him talking about, this was a long time ago, more than a decade now, maybe 15 years, him talking about the importance of hydrocarbon-producing countries leading the way in terms of sort of moving the needle with regards to sustainability. And this was sort of perplexing and easy to dismiss. But the idea that Masdar was one of the companies that genuinely pioneered this understanding. Look, we're a company from a country that has hydrocarbon resources. Fine. We understand that this is not going to last forever. From the sort of the climate change perspective and the mitigation and all that stuff, but also from the the supply. Whereas renewables really do have a much longer, let's call it a half-life. And so that vision has continued to inform the way that Masdar understands not just the market in the UAE and then sort of in the neighborhood, but in places like Azerbaijan. And I think that's genuinely important. And it's to the great credit of Azerbaijan that it has been able to harness that experience, but more seriously or more broadly, to harness the vision that comes with that experience and to try to apply it here in a way that really will help transform Azerbaijan's role in the supply of energy and produce and provide energy security and all that other stuff that the Europeans now care about. Okay, our next panelist is Javid Alifli, and he's the Senior Manager for Business Development for ACWA Power. Now, this is a company that develops and invests in and operates a portfolio of power generation and renewable energy and desalinated water production plants in various parts of the world, and including in Azerbaijan. And that's what I'd like to hear more about and what I hope the audience would like to hear more about. If you could, Javid, please focus on your company's current projects, but also on your future plans, because that's the thing that we'd like to, or at least that I'd like to hear more about. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for having us here, and this is a pleasure for me to represent Aqua Power in this reputable forum. To be honest, after hearing my colleagues' speeches, I totally redrafted what I wanted to say before. So I just wanted to touch, the way also, the panelists and the chairmen of the previous sessions, they were talking about the going green in a evolutionary or revolutionary way. Let me take you a bit back to the history of Aqua Power, and in comparison to my colleagues and their companies, we went green not because society and environment requested us to do this, but we went green because we needed them ourselves. We started 2004 as a desalination business. And what is needed for desalination is water and cheap energy. At that time, technology of the renewable energy was not so improved and not so cheap, so we went with a gas-fired power plants. At that time, for Saudi Arabia, it was cheap. And then we gradually started to implement, so we need to reduce the cost of the water we are producing. So just imagine, from 2004, we were, let's say, burning for production of 1 cubic meter of desalinated water, we were burning around 7 kilowatt hour of electricity. Now, we are below 3. And our target is now to go below 2 kilowatt hour per cubic meter. So how to do that? Brainstorming, researches, and so on, solar and wind. This is how we started to implement in our plants. We started to implement the solar and the wind energy. But we still continued with our conventional power. So now we are operating 69 facilities, and we produce 6.8 million cubic meters of desalinated water a day, and an installed capacity, total installed capacity of our power plants is 44 gigawatt, and exactly 40% of this is a renewable power. So, and naturally, where we come, we have water, we have cheap energy, so what can we do more is a green hydrogen. So now we are building the world's biggest green hydrogen plant in NEOM, and construction is commenced, and we expect first product in 2025 already. So we invested around, our investment in that project is around $8 billion US dollars. But in NEOM, we are co-investor, and we are investing and providing the facility with the desalinated water and electricity. So, but we learned from our partners now, and we have established our own hydrogen department. And now in Oman and Uzbekistan, we are going to be the sole producer of the green hydrogen. So we will do all the manufacturing and the technology line ourselves. Also expanding our philosophy of doing business. We have quite a simple philosophy, to be honest, not so complicated. Our business model is very understandable. We don't go now. We don't go. You know, in the not secured markets. We don't go in the new countries with the initial projects less than 150, 200 megawatt, and we also don't take brownfield. So quite simple. But we also want to expand geographically. And in 2019, it's been decided Azerbaijan to be one of the strategic countries where Aqua Power wants to invest. And we have awarded with a 240 megawatt wind power plant project here. And we started the development process, site studies and so on. But unfortunately, pandemic and geopolitical situation in the region delayed this project. But thanks to our teams, thanks to our partners and the support of the government, we soon are kicking off the construction works. And in 2 years, we will start producing electricity for the country. So this is quite a significant project because as Mazdar's project is the first utility scale PV, you know, the foreign invested PV project in Azerbaijan, ours is the same but for the wind. And we are going to feed around 300,000 households. It's possible to feed. And we will reduce CO2 emissions around 400,000 tons a year. And also we will save for the country around 220 million cubic meters of natural gas per year. We have, of course, supporting endeavors of the country, of our president and the Minister of Energy, and with the support of our partners from Azer Energy and SOCAR. Of course, we want to contribute more in the green ambitions of our country. And as it's been mentioned, we have already signed 2.5 gigawatts of wind onshore and offshore. And also we are working together with the ministry and Azer Energy on the implementation of battery energy storage system project. So this all gives us hope that the 240 megawatt is not the only project we are going to do in country. So we're looking forward to work for long years here. And of course, the subject is the Caspian region, so we are just quickly will tell you about our huge investments in Uzbekistan. This is 5.5, already committed 5.5 gigawatt of energy plus around 1 gigawatt of BESS, battery storage system. And also we're now just entering to Kazakhstan with 1 gigawatt wind project and the BESS system. So we are very ambitious here, and we look forward that so we can contribute as a company to big plans which countries have for the green future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I learned a lot. I hope lots of other people did. Thank you. It's great. And the way that you got to, the way that you started and the way that the company progressed and the way that you figured out how to leverage that is, it's important. Okay, our next panelist is Anton Kosach, who's managing director and partner at Boston Consulting Group. He quarterbacks BCG's climate and sustainability energy practice in the Caspian and the CIS. Anton, you and I have agreed that you're going to address two questions. So first, BCG has been looking into the rapidity of Azerbaijan's response to developing low-carbon businesses and technologies, and Afghan's talked about that a little bit. So I hope that you'll focus on the priority actions that you think are required in Azerbaijan and on what actions can be taken to expedite this implementation. So focus on the challenges. And then the second question is the role of foreign investors in unlocking the low-carbon opportunities found in this country, but elsewhere also, right? So, okay, aside from favorable economic conditions, right? Tell us about some of the additional things that Azerbaijan can do in terms of formulating this kind of a dedicated strategy aimed at attracting foreign investors based on best practice and the stuff that you've done in other places and so on. And if you can do that in the allotted time, we will all be impressed. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And dear panelists, dear colleagues, it's actually a privilege to be an intellectual partner of this forum, kind of the BCG is an intellectual partner. I think I'm okay without the slides, as we kind of pre-agreed that we'll have more kind of a theses rather than slides. But I'm also very privileged to be a partner and a trusted partners of the companies in Azerbaijan, not only companies, but the government and kind of society, hopefully. And today I want to kind of cover a little bit the different angle, because we talked a lot today on the supply side and how the great plan is, and kind of the bright perspective, the bright low carbon opportunities that exist in Azerbaijan. And we kind of fully echo what's been said, but let us also spend some time thinking about the limits from the demand side and the enablers, which might need to be taken in priority actions to unlock the opportunities that Azerbaijan has. And I actually have 3 messages to share today. I think the first one, Azerbaijan already has a quite ambitious commitment. I think the goal to reduce GHG emission by 30% by 2030 translates with the current economic growth trajectory. It translates in about 20 to 30% of economy decarbonization. And those 20 to 30% is around 15 to 20 million tons of CO2. And this is presumably more than all of the emissions of the oil and gas industry in Azerbaijan today. And that's the point number 1. So there is an ambition, it's a good ambition. There are another 7 years need to deliver. The second message is actually the reduction levers for Azerbaijan as a country. They exist and understandable. But they should be deployed as a mix of technology. There is no silver bullet. And now is a call for action for Azerbaijan. And I think the country, the business, they need to start fast, but also start smart. And that's where I also want to focus. So we did some analysis and we realized that, as I said, there is no single silver bullet, and there should be a combination of technologies. All of those technologies has been discussed today, or at least I've heard most of those technologies. We pretty much look into 4 dimensions to reduce 15 to 20 million tons of CO2. And the biggest one is, of course, renewables. We kind of, during this event session, we talked a lot about wind and the solar opportunity in Azerbaijan. We fully echo this. But we also anticipate that for Azerbaijan, it is only 5 to 6 million tons of megatons of CO2 reduction, which is pretty much kind of a 30% from where the country needs to be. And there are certain limits to this, and we realize that the limit is pretty much sits from the pressure in the grid availability to transmit the green energy. It is different regimes, it is different requirements. So when we talk here about the supply side, we definitely need to think about the infrastructure which should support the supply side. That's kind of one. The second technology which would work in Azerbaijan is a clean hydrogen. I'm not talking green hydrogen, let's rather put it clean for now, because it's always an economics which stays behind, and it's a question what should be the business case to make Azerbaijani business competitive on a regional and a global scale, you know? Because it is easy to replace the hydrogen with a green hydrogen, but then the cost of a product might not be really competitive. But even with the replacement of the entire hydrogen, we anticipate that would be another 1 million tons of CO2. So there is a still big gap to go. And the third big bucket is a specific industry and regulatory measures. They should come in a combination. That's, of course, the requirements to EV promotion and the regulatory measures to EV promotion. That's the deeper electrification of a country and the production cycles. Of course, energy efficiency at the existing businesses and the production facilities and, let's say, B2C, more kind of retail-focused stores. And the management of different fugitives. So we have methane emissions, we have leakages, etc. So that should be also a focal point. That's in combination might reduce another up to 6 million tons of CO2. But this one requires really coordinated actions of a state and a business. And it's critical to have the right incentives and stimulus, and it's critical to keep the pace of those transitions and those changes. Because also looking at the other countries, the EV penetration might be quick in the beginning, but there are certain roadblocks which need to be overcome in a joint and coordinated manner. And so, talking about the decarbonization levers, I think it's worth mentioning the last one. It is kind of for the remaining part, it's worth looking at the CCUS potential. In our analysis, we land up around 2 to 8 million of CCUS CO2 capture size, which is a big number, which is a really big number. We've heard some projects on the market globally, kind of 5 million tons in Abu Dhabi, 11 million tons in Saudi, but none of this is yet on track. You know, it's still kind of work in progress, and it's design and construction, et cetera, et cetera. So talking about capturing 2 million tons in 7 years, it's quite an ambition. And for this, really need to think about the availability of expertise, the infrastructure, and the conditions, both technical, geological conditions, but also regulatory conditions. Here, time is also kind of time is pressure. Last but not least, we also believe there is a great potential of low-carbon export opportunities, and looking at a particular technology, you need to look at the, let's say, bundle holistic option to realize a scale, because there is also a scale which needs to be captured from the smart, let's say, localizator approach. And important to mention, and I believe this discussion helps to build up the single understanding, but important to have those integrated planning and coordinated view between different players on the market, both business, we have different business company participating in these discussions, and the government before we make a decision. Because also realizing the upside, which can be kind of captured, upside is always additional export of reliable energy sources to the European, to the global partners. And we anticipate it's around additional 2-3 BCM of gas, which might be released if we realize the decarbonization effort for Azerbaijan in line with the target. And the third message, which I wanted to put today, and I think I'm kind of 30 seconds left, is that to unlock those opportunities at scale, Azerbaijan needs to develop and blend a secret sauce from the base ingredients. All the ingredients are well known. It's both regulatory and business stimulus that need to be brought in place. With the regulator, it's important to act in a coordinated way, as I said before. It's important to have a climate strategy for the country, which sets the target to the businesses, to the industries. But it's also important to implement the technical standards, which are aligned with an international standards, so the business is compliant. On the businesses, I think it's also the smart localization is what actually needed now in Azerbaijan, because unlikely you would localize the heavy machinery, but some parts of the value chain could and should be localized in order to deliver those ambitious targets. And I think to end up, the main pressure which need to be developed is a human capital. Probably some reorientation of the industries, of an education to build up the scarcest resource, which is missing in this kind of a secret sauce. So that's a people in Azerbaijan who will contribute to developing the new economy. But I'm pretty sure we are in the right moment of changes, and Azerbaijan has the full right to grow and win. And the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the small steps, so this step has been done. And thank you.
Thank you, Anton. There's a phrase that you used, need to deliver. And I want to use that as sort of the setup for what I'd like to hear our next speaker talk about. Andrea Meola, who is the Global Business Development Director at the Centro Elettronico Sperimentale Italiano. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know, CESI, or CESI, however you pronounce the acronym, is a global leader in the provision of specialized technical consulting services on critical energy matters. The really nitty-gritty technical stuff, there aren't too many companies out there that can do this in a really serious way, and this is one of them. So for instance, this company has been commissioned to produce a study on fully integrating renewable energy sources into the Azerbaijani power system. And it seems to me, and I'd like maybe if you could slightly draw out the distinction between what you're doing and what BCG is doing, just so that we understand the difference and the necessity of doing both or not. I don't know the answer to that, and so I'd like to hear it, and perhaps others would as well. But anyway, Andrea, what I want to do is to get you to speak about the key lessons learned in this regard. Not so much in the context of Azerbaijan, although that too, obviously, but how lessons learned from elsewhere can be applied in Azerbaijan in the field that you're specializing in. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Damon, and thanks again to the Ministry and the entire organization for giving CESI the opportunity of being here today and give a contribution to this very interesting forum. And I mean, thank you for the introduction. It was well done. I mean, you properly described our DNA. We are a technical consultant that has been serving the electricity industry for more than 60 years. And specifically, we have always had a kind of special angle. We are very specialized in the transmission distribution side, in what what we call the grid side of the case. And in this big journey from our consultancy perspective, we had the opportunity to witness how the electricity industry has developed over last years. And what we are seeing in this very moment, we can say, is really unparalleled to what we have seen in the past in terms of the dynamics, around which all these driving forces from a massive renewable penetration in the power system, decarbonization targets, digital technologies coming together. All these, forces are kind of reshaping our industry, and like all the disruptive changes, this is definitely creating opportunities and challenges. And so if we want to deep dive a bit, what are the opportunities and challenges when a power system wants to deploy a significant amount of renewables, and that's probably the case for Azerbaijan for the future. Definitely, all the countries more or less are taking this path, and there are definitely countries that started earlier this journey. And for instance, take Italy. And this is an example, I think it's a good example, not just because we are headquartered there, but because, you have to know that in Italy, we had a very generous set of incentives that stimulated a very massive penetration of renewables, around 10, 15 years back. And after that, let's say, developments, we ended up having, in few years, around 10, 20 gigawatt installed of intermittent renewables. And basically, we simply ended up having a power system that was behaving completely differently from what we were used in the past. And of course, we succeeded beating this challenge. We succeeded, of course, keeping the lights on, but also more importantly, we learned a lot. We learned a lot about which are the technical and also non-technical, let's say, more market regulatory mechanism that should be put in place in order to properly accompany this kind of developments. For instance, let's take a typical transmission or distribution system operator perspective. Now, all of them that are engaged in this massive renewable, let's say, connections, they are familiar with the fact that it's extremely important to have a clear set of technical standards and rules for connecting renewables that are in place. I want to make an example. We were, helping our friends in the Middle East, many power utilities that had just simply to manage a large number of connections requests from primarily distributed resource, and simply there were no procedures, no technical standards. So we helped them out as Chasey in these endeavors, different countries, and that's definitely something that some years ago were simply not a market need. And if we think a bit more about the market regulatory side, another kind of task we typically perform is that in a power system where a significant amount of renewables is going to be installed, you still need to guarantee that a certain amount of ancillary services are still provided by conventional generators. Maybe conventional generators, they find a kind of different position when it comes to the day ahead. They may be put, kind of set aside in this, primary energy market, but they can play a very important role when it comes to providing other kind of services that the power system desperately needs when it comes to massive developments. And, so there are many angles. Another angle that I think it's more and more important is more the developers and investors. Because the kind of connection side of the case is becoming also from their perspective, I feel what we are seeing, talk with our clients, more and more important. Because, it's clear a developer needs to base his thoughts on a solid business case. Maybe everything is okay from the yield point of view, whatever. But then you also need to make sure that when you connect your power plant, you're not being curtailed, or simply the power networks are, let's say, ready to digest the electricity that is going to be, let's say, injected. So, in a nutshell, I think all these issues can be tackled. That's good. That's good news. And there are definitely activities that could be done in this respect. And that's what was mentioned by Damien at first is definitely one of them. We have the opportunity of being selected by the World Bank to have a kind of very comprehensive study to address the opportunity of integrating renewable generation, intermittent generation in Azerbaijan. So what we will identify with this study is really not that much what are the limits of the system in order to limit anybody. I think we don't want to limit anybody. We want to understand what's the best way to develop the power system to make sure that all the generation that is available could be safely absorbed and safely dispatched. So cannot say much about that study yet in terms of outcomes because it just started. But I think there are a couple of things that already even without the study could be in my opinion, very well fitting the Azerbaijani case and very compelling for the specific case. And one, it was heavily mentioned today, is these, green corridors. And basically, in other words, having exporting opportunities. And exporting opportunities could be electricity, could be hydrogen, could be both. That's something that should be studied. And probably the sweet spot among the two is definitely something that should be looked very carefully into. And I just want to mention that we are also engaged as a consultant in the feasibility of one of the most important infrastructure that would help realizing this green corridor. It's the Georgia-Romania submarine cable. We are doing in these very months the feasibility for this activity. And hopefully, I mean, this will become viable, and this will become one of the first steps towards the integration of these regions and the power market. So very, very excited to have the opportunity to contribute as CESI in these endeavors, and thanks again to everybody.
Thank you very much. I think I'm beginning to understand the distinction between what you're doing and what BCG is doing, so that's good. All right, we come to our last panelist, my colleague from ADA University, Ahmad Humbatov. And I asked Ahmad to speak at the end because he has this uncanny ability to provide a bird's eye view on what others have said and identify key issues and priorities and challenges and somehow to bring it all together. And since we have a little bit of time, you perhaps might want to focus your remarks on how regional cooperation can further promote the Caspian region's green energy potential. So let's see if you can do a good wrap-up, and then perhaps we can see if we have a couple of minutes for burning, for a second round, if anybody has, any of the panelists have a burning thing to bring up. The floor is yours.
All right. So a thank you message first. I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of the event. Thank you for inviting. Very pleased to be part of this distinguished panel. I think also a separate thanks should go to the sponsors of this panel in the name of the Colin Construction Company. And of course, thank you to everyone, to all of those who managed to stay until the very end of this conference. Thank you so much. So talking about the potential of the Caspian green energy. So we talked about the supply side a little bit, about electricity, right? And then also a bit demand side. Just sort of wrap up the things. Regarding the supply side, I think everyone on this panel would agree that there's a huge potential in this part of the world in terms of developing green energy. So my colleague from the renewables agency, right, I think Aygün Hanım, she mentioned some numbers that onshore potential, right, stands at around 27 gigawatts, right, and then this offshore potential, which definitely can be a game changer in this part of the world, and standing at around up to 160 gigawatts, right? And also she mentioned this agreement, right, totaling all these MOUs and signed agreements with our existing partners, some of whom I'm actually presenting here on the panel, totaling up to 25 gigawatt potential, right, of renewable energy, which is a huge number. Obviously, we don't say that all of this is going to be realized, but at least if a small portion of this are going to be realized, it's going to be quite a game changer. Because just to give you a perspective, right, to sort of feel the scale, Azerbaijan's installed total electricity capacity stands at around 8 gigawatts, right? So I'm talking about up to 25 gigawatt capacity right now. So these are huge numbers, definitely, and as I think my colleague from Boston Consulting Group, right, said that the targets are quite ambitious, actually, for the country. So the intention is also here at the country level, right? We signed these MOUs with the EU. The companies are here, right? Again, all this sends a signal that the intention is also here. Talking about the demand side, I think, which is also important because obviously, I think when we talk about the development of that much of electricity, right, with the help of renewables, we imply exports, first of all, to the European Union, to the EU, mostly. And I think this is also where demand is. So this is not just about the supply, also about the demand story, right? And again, talking about electricity, green electricity demand in the EU, it's on the rise, definitely. Just to give you some sort of numbers to, again, feel the scale of what's happening there in terms of, adding electricity, green electricity exports to in that direction. So in the EU, just for the last year, right, around 39%, essentially 40% of all electricity generated in the EU was coming from renewables alone. and the numbers are on the rise, okay? And you might think that, okay, these are huge numbers, right? And is actually enough space, room for us to come and, with all this new additional electricity capacity, green electricity capacity for the export to the EU. Yes, this is not near enough actually, because all these growing numbers, all this newly installed green electricity capacity in the EU, a bulk of it actually targeting the replacement of fossil fuels. Right? So, and besides it, obviously, the very consumption of electricity is also on the rise. My colleagues also, I think, from the BCG, right, also mentions electrification thing, which is also a big thing globally, because if you talk about, if you're very serious about deep decarbonization, right, besides renewables and efficiency, that's also electrification is going to be a big part of the story. In the EU alone, if you talk about the final consumption, 25% stands for electricity, and the number is going to rise dramatically. And just talking about the absolute numbers, right, for the EU, again, demand side, just by 2050, total consumption of electricity, green electricity is going to be increased by up to 65%. And again, if you're a little bit more serious about our deep decarbonization targets, the numbers are going to be actually even higher, okay? And then, coming to the issue of electricity and grid, right, and all this updates, etc. in Azerbaijan. I think I don't want to talk about this too much because we don't have also much time to talk about that. I think to me, one of the major issues is the cost factor, right? But again, as my colleagues also mentioned here, that we are sort of in the process of doing this cost-benefit analysis, right, to trying to see whether it actually makes sense commercially to proceed and, to what extent we should develop, these renewables and timing, etc. But besides the cost factor, which perhaps we should be able to see a much clearer picture within the next year, right? And as my colleagues also mentioned, perhaps next year we'll be witnessing, right, already some numbers and some new actually agreements based on the current MOUs. I think the key issue here is also the regulations, right? The regulatory framework. I think that's the number one issue, if you ask me, which would help us, not just Azerbaijan, but John talk about this, wider Caspian region. Because our colleagues from Aqua Power and Mastar, they're also very active, in everywhere in this part of the world. I mean, Armenia, Georgia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, right? The regulations are the key, right? Because this is essentially the rules of the game, which send a signal message to the investors out there that come and invest. We have the stability, and I think ideally what the Azerbaijani government is trying to accomplish right now is to sort of replicate the experience in the oil and gas sector. So Azerbaijan is a success story when it comes to the oil and gas development, right? And Azerbaijan is also very famous for that we have never ever, changed any single provision in our, legal arrangements, in our PSAs, right? So before actually, sort of finalizing our regulatory framework in the country, I think we all want to make sure that, all this regulations, right, all those provisions, they work well, not just, by the way, for the investors, but also, for the host country, right, for the government, for Azerbaijan. And I think it takes a little bit time to, proceed with auctions, for example, right, which have been on the agenda for 2-3 years maybe already, right? Because I think everyone wants to make sure that, again, regulations are clear and they are good, not just for the investors, but also for the country, right? And the issue with the, generally investments in the renewables, right, as you all know, that requires significant upfront investments, unlike oil and gas, right, where we also have some operational costs, etc. But with the renewables, right, you have to be, sort of committed, because once you invest, there's no sort of, way back, and you're going to stick to this long-term contract with the price mechanism, etc. And I think another challenge is that, every year, actually, we see how costs associated with development of green electricity, right, are going down, right? 80-85% for solar panels, right, for the past decade, up to 65-70% for onshore wind, 50% around plus minus, depending where you're offshore wind, etc. So I think that's going to be, I think that the time is coming to an end, so I'm supposed to finish right now. I think I'm just going to stop here, and thank you for your attention, everyone. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to actually end now because at least a couple of our panelists have a meeting at 6 o'clock. So that's a pretty good reason to end, and it's also a good way to end because we had this good summary from Ahmed. So please join me in thanking all of our panelists. Thank you all for sticking it out, and see you at the din.